So we go to the first of two races today for the DD2 and the DD2 Masters category. The lineup for the first race of the day is as follows. Jan Schwitter from FM Racing, representing Switzerland, is on pole position ahead of Jan Negusens, who was involved in the trenches a little bit yesterday afternoon. David Remy from Sweden and the DD2 Livridis round out the second row, ahead of Zander Schriblak and Lasse Andreasen completing row 3. Madeleine Radney and Sebastian de Grand and Carl Klerbort and Steve Bull round out the top 10. Klerbort is on DD2 Masters pole. Marcel Steinert, Timo Haug, Tamsin Germain, Michael Becker, William van der Kaj, Patrick Weinstock, Jamie Billings, Christoph Adams, Christoph Linjen, Daniel Yildiz ran out the top 20 ahead of Wout Colson, Fritz Wernsen, Wout Antonissen, the steering wheel assassin as I'm going to call him, Roland Kinch, Alexander Derlinger, Conrad Bayer and Ronald Billings rounding out the 27 strong. On this particular occasion, as with the micro and mini max categories, it will be 11 minutes plus one additional lap. So they now go on to the formation. So they're just being told to slow down. This is the formation lap, so everyone will need to get into 2x2 rolling start formation. So, we've had a full set. Of clean starts so far. Let's see if we can carry that streak on, because at the moment this is now race number 7. We'll have completed 10 by the next break. So, DD2 and DD2 Masters have 11 minutes plus an additional lap ahead of them. The red lights are ignited on the starting gantry. This is their first of 2 races. Their second one will be at 15:29 local time. So they go into the tram lines. They're being instructed by the race director to slow down. Are we going to get a start here? Yes, we actually do. So that was very well controlled. So it's all single file to around about 8th position. 2 wide a little bit further towards the back end. Conrad Bayer's getting his elbows out. He's getting up. He's now up into 25th, so he might have gotten past Alexander Derlinger there. So nice work by Conrad. And at the front of the field, it is Jan Schwitter, I believe. Yep, that is the case. So the Swiss driver leading at the moment. And I can already see that Zander Schriblak has already made his way past DD2 Livridis there for what is effectively 4th position. So they come around 10-11, so it's Schwitter from Goossens, the 4:55 of David Remy, followed by Zander Schriblak and DD2 Livridis rounding up the top 5. Then you've got Madeleine Radney, I think, is now in 6th position. Carl Klebort's up all the way up into 7th now, as Zander Schriblak gets past David Remy through the exit of turn number 2 and makes it stick by turn 3. Other drivers that have made moves up the order, Tamsin Germain and Timo Haug, Michael Becker and Patrick Weinstock now occupy places 11 to 14. Sun continuing to beat down as we now have just under 10 minutes plus an additional lap. There is a clear lead to probably around about the tune of half a second last time around for Jan Schwitter over Jan Negusens, who's now got Schriblak breathing down on his back bumper. And, well, that was a late lunge. Were you trying to do a Daniel Ricciardo there, Zander? Didn't quite work out because he had to back out of it. Meanwhile, at the moment, Madeleine Radney's on the back bumper of countryman David Remy, who's also got, looks like Livridis in the 4:36 in 4th position. So it's getting very spicy up and down the order. Klerbort still in the lead in terms of the DD2 Masters classification, ahead of Marcel Steinert, Lasse Andreasen and Sebastian de Grand, as David Remy now gets repassed back by Livris going into turns 7 and 8. Radney's there waiting in the wings to see if she can pick up the pieces. And behind her, she's got Carl Kleebort in the 5.10, along with Steinert, Andreasen, de Grand. Tamsin Germain is not that far adrift of Sebastian de Grand. She's about 7/10 of a second adrift. As Priblak now gets past Jan Nigussens for second place. Livris is there within striking distance. The drivers from second onwards up to around about, I'm just trying to keep an eye on some of the numbers that are scrolling past. I think we're probably looking at the likes of Steve Bull in the 4:30. So you're looking at from second all the way down to about 13th, who are separated by about 3 seconds at this moment in time. So incredibly close inter-category battling here. As Schwitter's lead now extends to nearly 1 second over Zander Priblak, but Priblak, with the caliber that he is the defending DD2 champion in BNL. So that gap will probably be closing if he goes quicker than Schwitter. And he does, and he closes it down to just over 8.5 tenths. Meanwhile, behind Dionysus Livris, everything is starting to concertina a bit closer together, as Lassie Andreasen is trying to get past Madeleine Radney for 6th place. And Goossens has also lost out on a couple of more positions, it looks like, so he's dropped behind Dionysus Livris and now David Remy. So Goossens is now in the clear firing line of both Madeleine Radney and Lasse Andreasen from Sweden and Denmark, respectively, as the leaders are coming through turns 10 and 11. Schwitter's lead is being a bit decimated here by Zander Priblak, as we've got 6 minutes and 30 on the clock to go, plus 1 additional lap. Gap now is 0.68, down from 0.87. So that is another 0.18 of a second that Priblak has taken out of Schwitter and has set the fastest lap in the process. Top 5 in terms of the overall classifications per category. It's Schwitter from Priblak, Livris, Remy and Goossens. In DD2 Masters, it's Kleebort from Germain, Haug, Weinstock and Becker. Christoph Adams is 6th in the DD2 Masters class at the minute, currently circulating in 18th behind Holland's William van der Kaj. Excuse me. As the gap has now closed again. I think that's probably going to be under half a second. Maybe even make that closer to 3/10 from Schwitter to Priblak. That goes to 4/10, 0.4. 1 of a second between first and second. And Zander is closing on Jan all the way through turns 3, 4, now 5. They head to 6. He might get a run on the Swiss driver now because they're going down the long back straight towards turn 7. And he closes up under the braking zone. Whilst Priblak is doing this, he's actually dropping Dionysus Livris, who's in 3rd place at the moment, ahead of David Remy, Jan Goossens, Madeleine Radney and Lasse Andreasen. In terms of the overall classification in this race, that's the top 7. 4 minutes and 49 to go. Priblak is in the hot seat and he is absolutely flying. Schwitter, I think, will be coming under close proximity and close scrutiny very shortly as they cross the start-finish line. Gap now 0.162 between first and second. And Priblak again closes up in the braking zone. Takes a wide line turn through turn 3. Is he going to have him on turn 4? No, close. Had to back out of it, did the Belgian. But this is going to allow Dionysus Livris to close up. Then David Remy. Then also Jan Goossens, Madeleine Radney and Lasse Andreasen. And they probably, if they start battling with them, it's going to bring the next 3 drivers through. As Steve Bull, I think, has just got past Carl Kleebort for 10th position on the road, which he has done. A nice clean move by the Brit into turn number 7, as Livris is now pressuring Priblak. Priblak now has to think about whether he's going to attack or defend, because he can go for Schwitter, but he might lose out to Dionysus Livris in the process. Schwitter still leads. Top 3 now separated by 3/10. as the gap extends between Schiblak to Schwitter, who's currently leading to about 0.2 of a second. Liveris in third. David Remy closing up. Top four separated by 0.865 of a second. And it's a further 4 or so tenths to Jan Negusens. Madeleine Radney still in 6th ahead of Lasse Andresen. Sebastian de Grand now up into 8th ahead of Marcel Steinert, with Steve Bull making it a DD2 clean sweep of the top 10, with Karl Klebort still in 11th but still holds the DD2 Masters class lead. And about 7 tenths away from him is Tamsin Germain from the United Kingdom. So she is hopefully closing. Just going to keep an eye on their lap times. Well, Karl Klebort had nearly 0.3 of a second taken out of him by Tamsin Germain. So we'll see how she gets on. Right. Schwitter leads, now 0.3. Oh, here we go. It's happening. There's changes afoot. Schiblak loses out to Liveris, as I suspected. That's going to allow the likes of David Remy now to close up. Tamsin Germain now has got Billings. That's Jamie Billings in front. So Tamsin's now lost a bit, has got one person in front of her before she has Karl Klebort in sight. So Jamie Billings up into 11th position. Roland Kinch is a retiree, having left us on lap number 7. 2 minutes and 15 to go. So Schwitter has been actually somewhat in the clear, but Dionysius Liveris now in 2nd position, will try to close. The top 7 are, well, last time around were 1.894 seconds adrift of each other. Let's see what the spread is now. 1.868. And through come the leaders into turns 3. Schwitter leading, Liveris, Schiblak, Remy, Gussens, Radney, Andresen, de Grand, Steinert and Bull are the top 10. Patrick Weinstock and Michael Becker have both made it past Timo Haug, their countrymen. So Haug now drops down into 16th. Meanwhile, Christoph Adams has been on a charge. He's up into 17th, up from 20th now. As the lead's gone to Dionysius Liveris, so must have made it through at turn 7 or 8. So the Greek now hits the front of the field ahead of the Swiss ace of Jan Schwitter. Zander Schiblak now on the heels of the 427, but David Remy clearly wants to get stuck in. Schiblak tries to go for that move again on the inside of turn 12. Can't make it work. Schwitter slides in front. Remy now gets an advantage. Latches on towards the back bumper of Zander Schiblak. So Remy's now going to be in striking distance, as is Jan Negusens. And here comes Madeleine Radney in the 468. Oh, Schwitter's pushed wide, and he loses out big time. So Remy now up into 2nd. Schiblak now up into 3rd. It's a drag race down to turn 7 between Gussens and Radney. Who's come out on top on that one? I think it is Madeleine Radney that's got past Jan Negusens, but Schwitter got pushed wide. It was 3 abreast. As there's more battling and boring a little bit further down the order. Schwitter was completely compromised, lost the lead, lost 2nd, and then a whole handful of places thereafter. So Liveris gets a clear lead over David Remy. We've got 12 on the clock to go. So effectively it will be, this time will be the provisional last lap. So when they get through into turn, well, Liveris now will have this and an additional lap to go. Jan Schwitter, in the meantime, has dropped down into 7th place behind Lasse Andresen. So drama from the Swiss driver, having been pushed when it was 3 abreast. I'm not too sure if there was contact, and if there was, that will be investigated by race control after this race. So 3 abreast going between turns 3 and 4 doesn't work out, as Jan Schwitter just found out, as he's now in 7th. Dionysius Liveris had a 1.1 second advantage over David Remy. Zander Schiblak now being put under fire by Madeleine Radney from Sweden. So the lady is trying to get a chance to get past the current defending champion, but the gap is slightly extended. It's 1 lap to go. Liveris comes through turn 2 for the final time. The gaps close up between 2nd, 3rd and 4th into the braking zone into turn number 2. Behind them, Lasse Andresen has also got past Jan Negusens, with Jan Schwitter being put under fire by Sebastian de Grand. That's 7th and 8th. Steve Bull up into 9th. Marcel Steinert now hits the top 10, ahead of Karl Klebort, who leads the DD2 Masters classification. Jamie Billings in 12th ahead of Tamsin Germain, Patrick Weinstock, Michael Becker, Timo Haug and Christoph Adams rounding out the top 17. And as I say that, Dionysius Liveris comes through the right-hander at turn 10 for the final time, flies through turn number 11, and it's going to be quite an easy win now, as he was not caught in the melee that had a casualty in the form of Jan Schwitter. So Liveris wins it, fist pumps the air ahead of David Remy. Nice work by both Zander Schiblak and the forward-pressing Madeline Radney as she got up into 4th at the end of that race. A nicer result for the Swede, having had a bit of a difficult race in final number 2 yesterday. So Dionysius Liveris takes the win here for DD2 and DD2 Masters race number 1 by nearly 1.2 seconds ahead of Sweden's David Remy, with Zander Schiblak making it 3 different nationalities in the top 3 representing Belgium. Then it was Madeline Radney and Lasse Andreasen completing the top 5. Jan Negussen's in 6th ahead of pole sitter Jan Schwitter, who lost out big time a couple of moments ago going through the the part between turns 4 and 5. Sebastian de Grand, Steve Bull and Marcel Steinert round out the top 10. Winner in DD2, once again, it's the fastest baker in these parts. It's Carl Clairbaut in 11th place ahead of Jamie Billings. Michael Becker and Patrick Weinstock would end up past Tamsin Germain at the flag, with Tamsin rounding out the top 15, so she was 4th in the DD2 Masters classification. Timo Haug was 5th in DD2 Masters, 16th on the road ahead of Christoph Adams, William van der Kaj, Fritz Wernsen, Wout Antonissen, Alexander Derlinger up to 21st ahead of Tanja Yildiz, Christoph Leinen.